what's up, people? This is D. Ross, the host of Passion2Profits TV. Got to tell you, I am in Louisiana right now. I'm in Louisiana, and I do apologize for the late start. We had some technical difficulties behind the scenes. I wasn't able to do a pre-check or a green room check or none of those different checks, and so we decided to just start a little bit later, try to get my guests all taken care of on the other side. And again, without any doubt, I believe Mr. Lonnie is going to bring some information that's going to be helpful for you. He's an author of a children's book. He's going to talk about that. He's going to tell you where he's coming from, what it's all about. But before we get started, I just want to say shout out to everyone who's been sending me birthday wishes on my road trip. I started out, a couple of days ago and went down to South Carolina, checked out some property there for our family, looked at a couple of different pieces, also looked at one for a lakefront property. Then I went ahead and I took another trip over to a real cool spot and landed over there in Savannah, Georgia. And then I was over in Savannah, Georgia last night, yesterday. And then, of course, I moved over into Orange Beach, Alabama. If you haven't been to Orange Beach, Alabama, where, it's 90% white Caucasian. However, there's about 1 to 2% African American there. And I'll tell you, when you get to that place, it's a beautiful place. And then, of course, I made it on down the road to Louisiana, on my way to Texas to see my cousins for the first time since we were little kids, reuniting the family and making sure that our family knows their family and reconnecting. We've been doing this connection over the COVID, and through that it's always been online. But I made this decision that I'm gonna just add this to my birthday wishes, and I made this trip. And so I want to say thank you to everyone who's been watching the trip, everyone who's been posting information. I want to send shout outs to everyone who's, showed deep love for me as well, and all the birthday wishes. So I appreciate you and all that you do. All right. So now, here's the deal. This show's going to be about 40 minutes. It's not going to be the whole hour, but 40 minutes, but it should be power packed with some really cool info, right? Because, as you know, I like to bring people who are going to, challenge us to look at exactly, what it is that we do, why we do it, and some of the things that, get us to do better, right? And so there's this idea of being a brother's keeper, right? There's this idea of, am I my brother's keeper? There's this idea that, do you really know what you're doing when you have a smaller brother or a little sister? How you might be setting a roadmap for them for failure if they're watching you. So we're going to talk about all those kind of things. I'm going to bring in my guests in a moment, but let's go ahead and get this party started. It's 2021. I got my man Lonnie Lesane Senior B over here. I had Junior on my paper, but it looks like you got Senior. So I guess you wrote that book for the Junior, but I don't even know. Tell us the title of your book, why you wrote the book, and who in the world is Lonnie Lesane Senior?
Well, I wrote the book over 25 years ago. I wrote it for my daughter. I used to read books to them, and I felt like they needed something original, and they started reading it to me. And now my oldest daughter is expecting a kid, and I decided to get it published. Um, it's a little piece of my life when I was younger, and that title of the book is Little Man's Big Day.
Say that again.
The title of the book is Little Man's Big Day.
All right. So you guys heard it. Little Man's Big Day, right? So he's on a journey. And so tell us about this journey that little man takes. But before you do that, tell us, why did you decide to publish it? You said you've been, reading the story, then your kids started reading the story. So why is it important for you now, at this time of your life?
I got a grandkid on the way, and I wanted to publish it so it leave a legacy for the grandkid. And any future grandkids, something for them to look up and say, this is theirs. This is a part of them.
So is it
So
more
is it
like a
more like a
legacy
legacy
product for
product
you,
for
something
you?
that
Something that
you're leaving
you're
for a
leaving for a
legacy, or
legacy,
is it
or is it
also some
also some
training,
training,
some learning you
some
want
learning
them to
you want
have?
them
I
to
mean,
have?
what?
I mean, what?
Go a little
Go a
deeper
little
about
deeper
that.
about that.
Well, I want them to be able to face their fears. Everything out in the world is big once you get out there, but you have to decide to go head through it to get to where you got to get to. Um, in the book, uh, Percy faces a lot of things going to pick up his brother, but his goal was to get to the school and pick his brother up. And I want my kids, grandkids, nieces, and nephews to understand that anything that's in their way can be either moved or they can go around it to get to where they got to go to.
So anything
So
that's in
anything
their
that's in their
way,
way,
you want them
you
to be
want
able
them to
to
be able to
move
move
or go
or go
around it.
around it.
So what are
So
some of
what
the
are some of
things
the
that
things
you
that you
identified
identified
that would get
that
in the
would get in
way
the way
and made you
and
want
made
to
you
make
want
sure
to
you
make
put
sure you
those
put
things
those
in the book?
things in the book?
Well, in life, you hear no. Uh, you sometimes live in a situation where you don't see anything, a lot of things positive, but it's good inside of you, and sometimes you have to look past that to get to where you want to get to. Um, Obstacles sometimes is just not something that's physical; it's just something that's mental that you had to get through.
Now you just
Now
said
you
it's
just said
not
it's not
always
always
physical,
physical;
it could be
it could be
mental.
mental.
So
So
talk
talk
about
about
some of the
some of the
mental
mental
things that get
things
in the
that get in the
way and
way and
why
why
that was
that was
important
important
to be
to
part
be
of this
part of
book.
this book.
And then
And
tell
then
us a
tell
little
us
bit
a little
about
bit
you
about
and
you and
the writing
the writing
style. Like,
style.
how do
Like,
you
how do you
come up with your
come up with your
idea, and
idea, and
how did you,
how did you,
start
start
manifesting?
manifesting?
Well, that this story is basically loosely based on a story of me and my nephew growing up in Baltimore with my aunt. Uh, when I write, I normally go back to a time when I was younger, and I'll bring the past to the future just to show the relevance that things haven't changed a lot. It's just that we see a lot more. Um, when I speak to younger people, they don't understand until they go through it. So once they go through it, they look back and they say, "That's what he said. I understand that."
When
When
you
you
decided to
decided
write,
to write,
what was
what
your
was your
process for
process for
writing,
writing?
what
You
you
know
were
what you
putting
were
into the
putting
book?
into the book.
Well, the process was I wanted them to see something original. I was reading all of the old classics, Dr. Seuss and Three Little Pigs. And one evening I was like, I could turn something to this into some original. I could get them part of me and let them see how I grew up through words. And also it's they get to see themselves in color. They can picture that. They can picture how I grew up and understand. Um, I wrote it so long ago that when my daughter told me she was pregnant, I literally had to pull it out of the folder out of the closet. Uh, you disappear. I can't hear you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've been having
we've been
some
having some
technical
technical
difficulties with the
difficulties with
sound.
the sound.
Not sure why
Not
we're
sure
getting
why
that
we're getting
reverb,
that reverb,
but
but
so when
so
you
when you
knew your
knew
daughter
your
was
daughter
about to
was
have
about
this
to have this
child,
child,
you said that
you said
you
that
just had to
you just
get
had to
back to
get
the
back
book
to the book
and to kind of
and to kind of
unearth it again.
unearth it again.
What's your
What's
plan
your
for it
plan
now?
for it
Now
now?
that
Now that you're
you've put it
you've put it
into
into a
book form
book
and
form and
you have it
you have it
published.
published.
Well, I've been asked to see if I can make it a series. I have. Um, that's where my strongest memories come from back in them days. So I have some stories that I can put down and make it a series. I want my kids and grandkids. I've got some great nieces. Um, I want them to see something different from Uncle Lonnie.
All right, so
All right,
you want
so
me to see
you want me
something
to see
different.
something different?
You're
You're
putting this together
putting
so
this
that
together so that
she
she
can help
can help
him understand
him
what you
understand
went
what you
through.
went through.
And then you
And then you
also
also
decided that you
decided
wanted
that
to
you wanted
impact
to impact
others.
others.
When we talked
When
on
we
the
talked on the
phone,
phone,
you kind of
you
talked
kind of
about
talked
this
about this
idea of making a
idea of making a
difference.
difference.
Why is making a
Why is
difference
making a
so
difference
important
so
to you?
important to you?
Because the country itself is been emboldened in a different way, where they're seeing things that I saw in the '70s, and um, it's shocking them. And the fear is not there. There's I just they just want to take it without the knowledge that it's always been there. It's nothing new. Um, and I talk to. It's hard to get through to some of these kids because they haven't seen it. Um, all I can do is tell my story.
Well, that's one of
Well,
the
that's one
reasons
of the
why I
reasons
have
why
the
I have
show.
the show.
Write
It's
your
write your
story, or
story, or
people have
people
a
have
purpose
a
behind their
purpose behind their
passion.
passion.
Can you talk
Can
to
you
us
talk
about the
to us
passion
about the
that you
passion
had to
that you
write,
had to write,
and then
and
how it
then
turned
how it turned
into
into
this purpose
this
for you
purpose for you
or for your
or
family?
for your family?
Well, for the last few years, I've been writing another book entitled Titus, and it was teaching about the African kings and queens, and it was lost. But this book will show kids how I grew up, and I grew up in the '70s, late '60s, early '70s, so they get to see what they're saying on TV. It's a lot of things they bringing back on TV that's more comical than real life. So I can let them see it through my eyes by putting it in the book. Um, uh, when I talk to them, you can say it kind of glazes over there, glazes past them. So I really want them to see that I'm familiar with what they're going through, and if I can put it down in a book and add some color to it to catch their attention, I'll do that. Most people, knowing me, didn't know that I wrote that I've been writing since seventh grade, and they've known me most of my life. So all of this is catching everybody in their liking the story and the book.
So tell us
So
about
tell us
one or
about
two of
one
the
or two of the
stories.
stories.
Take us into
Take
the
us into
life
the
of
life
Lonnie,
of Lonnie,
little man.
little man.
As a kid, I grew up living with my aunt Mary in Baltimore City. Um, she was strict. I was bad. Um, I don't know bad. I got into everything, and at my nephew moved in for a couple years. He was 4 years younger than me, so it was a regiment with her. Um, but it was within that city, um, so we saw, heard, and did a lot of everything growing up. I didn't realize that most of my family did with her until later on in life, but um, she molded me a certain kind of way that when I moved out here to the county, it was a little bit different.
So did it
So did it
change who you
change who you
were or how
were or
you
how you
engaged? I mean,
engaged? I mean,
what were some
what
of
were
the
some of
things
the
that
things that
you had to
you had to
endure? Like,
endure?
tell
Like,
us
tell
about
us about
what is it
what
that
is it
people
that
are going to
people
learn
are going
from
to
your
learn from your
story.
story.
Well, um, I guess you'd have to know Baltimore City in order to understand walking through alleys and walking through the blocks to get to where you got, especially as a kid, because everything that you see now, just seeing it through a kid's eyes, that you realize that there's a reason that most people only live 3 blocks from their house, and that's all they see. Uh, because anything past that, is almost unreal to me.
The last
The
part
last part
that you
that you
talked about,
talked about,
can you
can you
say that
say
again?
that again?
For some
For
reason, we
some
didn't
reason,
hear
we
that
didn't hear
last
that
part.
last part.
Um, about you you learn that living within the in the city that most people only live for a few blocks around from where they live. They go no further than that. Anything further than that is almost seems unreal. Um, in Baltimore, when you come out to the county, they didn't call it the county; they called it the country. Coming out to the country because it's a whole different world. Um, so as a kid, just being sent to the store was almost an adventure. But you grow numb to it as a kid because it's just something that you used to doing and the things you see you're used to seeing. So
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 you're talking
you're
about like
talking
if
about
you
like
just
if
go
you
to the
just go to the
store now,
store
you
now,
might
you
have
might
to
have to
fight for your
fight for
life
your
to get
life to
back
get back
home. Or you
home,
just
or you
talking
just
about
talking
like
about
what you
like what you
see
see
as a
as a
kid,
kid,
different other
different other
people
people
engaged
engaged
in the community.
I never had to fight for my life getting back home, but you see all of the dangers as you travel. You see everything. Um, I was never in fear of my life. I'm pretty sure that if I'd have made a wrong turn here or a wrong turn there, something different could have been, but that never happened. Um, not that I can remember.
Well, I know that
Well,
some
I know that
kids,
some kids,
they have to
they have to
choose
choose
being in
being in
gangs
gangs
or
or
not,
not,
just to get
just to
from
get from
point A to
point
point
A to
B.
point B.
Some
Some
people,
people,
they
they
have to
have to
interact with,
interact with,
drugs and
drugs and
some of the
some of
other,
the other,
seedy
seedy
types of
types of
things that
things
people
that
are
people are
involved in the
involved in the
community
community
just to get
just to
back and
get
forth
back
to
and forth to
school.
school.
So when
So
you
when
talk
you
about
talk
this
about this
adventure,
adventure,
what were some of
what were
the
some of the
adventures that you
adventures that
wanted
you wanted
to
to
make sure you
make sure you
prevent other
prevent other
kids
kids
from
from
getting
getting
involved with
involved with
as they,
as they,
travel
travel
from
from
home to
home to
school or
school
wherever
or
they are in
wherever
the
they are in the
community?
community?
Well, in the book, I tell Percy he says a prayer before he walks down the alley, and I didn't mention anything particular. I just showed that he saw in his eyes every noise he heard was a monster or a giant animal. Once he entered the street, every noise he heard was amplified. As a kid, you see the the fiends and the police and the dealers, but that's not your goal. Is to go where you're going. Like I said, my aunt was strict. I had brothers. Um, I had a lot of family, so nothing was shocking to me really. So I could just about just concentrate on where I was going. Um, and
So what do you
So
think
what do you think
happens
happens
when
when
people are not
people
as
are not as
confident as
confident
you
as you
in the
in the
community? What kind
community?
of
What kind
things
of
would
things would
you think
you
would
think would
get them
get them
derailed?
derailed?
well, you find things that's familiar to you. You find people that's you're comfortable with, and sometimes people click up with people just to survive. Um, and it depends on the environment you're in. Like I say, if it's block to block, uh, this this block is this way, that block is that way, and if you coming up as a strong person, what you see in your eyes as a strong person, um, and you click up with people that's like minded like you, then you can get either way. You can get steered the right way, or you can get steered the wrong way. Uh, um, I'm not gonna say that I grew up perfect. Um, that's why it's shocking to a lot of people that I wrote this book. Um, but I've, you know, I didn't grow up where I've seen a lot of people doing. a whole lot of positive things, but I knew some that didn't. So, and even my brothers, they made sure I stayed a certain kind of way. Um, it's, it was different. Uh, I was in the street and out the street, in the street, out the street. But I got married young. I went in service young. So, um, 35 years married to the same woman. Uh, she kept me grounded. Uh, that's why I am where I am now.
So,
So,
what is
what
your
is
dream
your
now
dream
as you
now
move
as you move
forward?
forward?
You're
You're
published,
published,
you're an
you're an
author.
author.
What do you
What
want
do
your
you
book
want
to
your
do
book
in
to
the
do in
world?
the
What are
world?
you
What are you
questing for?
questing for? I want kids to read the book, the series, if I can get it as a series, to read the series and see that um, life come with consequences, and depend on which way you go, depends on the consequences. Your actions bring other actions. So the series will show that. Uh, and sometimes Percy will be in it, sometimes he won't. But I want every kid to understand that um, you grow as you move along, and sometimes you'll do things that's going to cause other things to happen.
So now you
So now
mentioned
you
a
mentioned a
series. Why
series.
don't you
Why
talk
don't you
about
talk
that?
about that?
Why did you
Why did you
decide to
decide to
create a
create a
series, and how
series,
is
and
that going
how
to
is that
work?
going to work? It's kind of funny because at the end of the old man's big day, people called me and said that it didn't have an ending. Well, I left the ending open because life has consequences, and some people discipline their kids differently. So I didn't want to put what happened to Percy at the end of it. I wanted to leave that to the readers. But uh, each book gonna have consequences with them. Like I said, I was a little bad kid. I did whatever I thought could occupy my mind at the time, um, and I didn't worry about the consequences until it happened.
Well, you
Well,
mentioned the
you
word
mentioned the word
consequences a couple of
consequences a couple
times,
of
and
times,
there's
and
good
there's good
consequences,
consequences,
negative
negative
consequences,
consequences,
and then
and then
sometimes
sometimes
people
people
learn
learn
great
great
lessons from
lessons
these
from these
consequences.
consequences.
Talk
Talk
about two or
about
three
two
of
or
the
three of the
lessons that you
lessons that
want
you
people to
want people
take
to take
away
away
from
from
your
your
book
book
or the
or the
series,
series,
and
and
then
then
how do you
how do
want
you
them
want them
to
to
express that
express
they've
that they've
actually learned
actually learned
something
something
from
from
your
your
books?
books? Well, um, in the first one, you learn that the world is big, but everything is not as scary as you see it. Um, and through the series, I want them to learn that as you try things, even the things that you think are bad and you don't see, can turn around and come back to help you um, in the long run. Because I was scared of some things that I had no business being scared of. I was just scared of it, and in the end, it let me know that I shouldn't be scared, be afraid. So that was what's going to be in the second book.
Cool.
Cool.
So
So
you
you
already kind
already
of
kind
give
of give
people a
people a
preempt
preempt
or
or
entry
entry
into
into
the next
the
part of
next
what
part
you're
of
going to
what you're
write
going to write
within your
within your
next book.
next book.
So
So
tell us
tell
about
us
that,
about
because
that
you
because
talked
you
about what
talked about what
inspired us
inspired us
or
or
inspired you.
inspired you.
You talked
You talked
about,
about
the fact
the
that you
fact
have
that
this
you have this
series.
series.
So
So
let's talk
let's
about
talk
your
about
next
your next
steps in your
steps in your
journey.
journey.
Where are you
Where are
going
you
to
gonna
take the
take the
characters? What are you
characters?
going
What
to
are you
do?
gonna do? Well, um, not to say too much. Um, my uncle Roland's mother lived with us in Baltimore, and any family member will tell you she was like 150 years old, and I was scared to death of her. And the one time I faced consequences, and she came out to help me, and I screamed, and she calmed me down because everything from through that book, through this next book, she kind of had something to do with my fear of her.
So you
So
said
you said
getting over the
getting over the
fear or
fear
getting
or getting
past the
past the
fear.
fear.
Yeah, getting past it.
Awesome.
Awesome.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
are
Well,
there
are there
any
any
other
other
things that
things
you
that you
learned,
learned?
maybe two or
Maybe
three
two or
things
three
you
things you
learned in your
learned in your
journey as a
journey as a
writer,
writer,
from writer
from
to
writer to
author?
author?
Talk to us
Talk
as
to us
if
as if
we've never
we've
been
never been
involved with it
involved with it
before, and
before, and
what
what
you might
you might
want to
want
teach
to
them to
teach them
do
to do
in order to
in
make
order to
sure that
make
they
sure that
press
they
through
press
and
through and
complete their
complete their
projects.
projects.
Most people that know me that know that I write mostly poems, and I compare the past to the future. I want every black male, female to understand that um, we have a purpose, and that our purpose is to be strong for one another. And if you can reach one and teach one, that's what we need to do. That's how I learned in life.
All right.
All right.
So
So
each one
each
teach
one
one,
teach
each one
one,
reach
each one
one.
reach one.
You're pulling them
You're pulling
in,
them in,
getting them some
getting them some
information.
information.
How do
How
people
do people
find you,
find you,
Lonnie?
Lonnie?
And if they
And
wanted
if
a
they
copy
wanted
of
a
the book,
copy of
what
the
do they
book,
need
what
to
do they
do?
need to do?
Well, right now, I'm going through the publisher, um, exlibris.com. It's also available at any retail place. I'm working on a website where I could sell it through the website. I made a bulk order. Um, I got help that's helping me get this process going. Um, I just I want support the reviews. I want people to understand that there's more to come. Um, and thank you, thank you for giving me this outlet.
Well, we've been having
Well,
some
we've been having
technical
some
difficulty.
technical
I've been getting
difficulty. I've
some
been getting some
messages from the
messages
sound,
from
but
the
I'm going to
sound,
bring
but
you
I'm going to
back.
bring you back.
We're going to have to
We're
do
going to
this
have to
when
do
I'm in
this
my
when I'm in my
studio.
studio.
For some
For
reason,
some
it
reason,
hasn't been
it
as
hasn't
crispy
been
as
as
I like.
crispy as I like.
But I
But
really
I
want,
really
could you
want,
show
could you
us your
show
book
us your
again?
book
Like,
again? Like,
do you have a
do you
copy
have a
with
copy
you?
with you?
I
Or
don't have it
Or
with me.
no problem.
no problem.
No.
But what we
But
want to
what we
do
want to
is,
do is,
you can
you
give
can give
people
people
some
some
autograph
autograph
copies. Are they
copies. Are
gonna,
they gonna,
connect
connect
directly with
directly with
you,
you,
or
Yes.
how
or
can they
how
do
can they
that?
do that?
When I get the bulk order, they can contact me directly, and yes, I will autograph and send the book to you, or meet you somewhere and bring the book to you. Um, I'm just trying to get them out so I can move forward.
And do you
And
have
do
a
you have a
new
new
book
book
launch coming
launch
up?
coming
You have
up?
any
You have any
events that
events
you're gonna
that you're going
be
to be
doing to
doing to
kind of
kind of
stir the
stir the
pot, so to
pot, so
speak?
to speak?
Well, we have a neighborhood reunion every year. I'm going to take some books there and sign and get rid of sell as
And
many
what
as I
date
And what
is
can.
that
date is
gonna
that
be where
going to
they
be
could
where they
come and
could come
see
and
you
see
and
you and
ask
July
ask
the
questions and
questions
find
and
out
17th.
more
find out
about
more
the
about
book?
the book?
July the 17th. South Law Drive, Law, Maryland.
Say that
Say
again
that
so
again
people
so
can get
people
that.
can get that.
July the 17th. South Law Drive, Law, Maryland.
All right,
All
and that's
right, and that's a
like a
like a
block
block
reunion. The
reunion.
people
The
that live
people
in the
that live in the
neighborhood just
neighborhood
kind of
just
come
kind of
out.
come out.
Is it
Is it
barbecue? What's
barbecue?
going
What's
on?
going
How
on? How
music,
Yes,
music,
dancing? What's
dancing?
happening?
What's happening?
yes, all of that. Music, dancing. It's going to be a little different this year because of COVID, but we always have a nice turnout and have a good time.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Well,
Okay. Well,
again,
again,
this is
this
Lonnie
is Lonnie
Lesane
Lesane
Senior,
Senior,
and he
and
is the
he is the
author
author
of this
of
book.
this book.
And the
And the
idea is
idea
that
is
when
that when
you
you
help,
help,
him get
him
this
get this
message out,
message out,
it's going to
it's going
help
to
the
help the
community, right?
community, right?
So
So
again,
again,
take some
take some
time,
time,
reach out.
reach out.
Again, Lonnie,
Again,
tell
Lonnie,
us how
tell
to
us how to
connect with
connect
you
with you
to make
to make
sure that
sure that
we,
we,
get the
get the
information
information
and get the
and get
book.
the book.
My Gmail is tankheadsenior at gmail.com. You can send me an email. Um, Tell me how many books you need. Uh, Name what you want me to write on it. I'll sign it. Get it to you as soon as I get it.
All right,
All
so
right,
that's
so
little
that's little
man's
man's
big
big
day,
day,
right?
right?
Little
Little
man's big
man's big
day.
day.
He's
He's
holding
holding
hands. He's
hands.
going
He's
out
going
there.
out
He's
there.
looking
He's
at
looking
all
at
these
all these
different
different
things.
things.
The
The
adventure is
adventure
there
is
every
there
day
every
for
day
him
for
to,
him to,
stay
stay
safe
safe
and
and
learn about
learn
the
about the
community. So
community. So
again, thank
again,
you,
thank
Lonnie,
you,
for
Lonnie,
coming
for
on the
coming on the
show.
show.
I want to
I want
thank
to thank
Chris for
Chris for
bringing you
bringing
to
you to
us,
us,
Chris
Chris
Spate,
Spate,
and
and
he
he
told you
told
about
you
the
about the
show, and
show.
we're
And
looking
we're
forward
looking
to
forward
learning
to
more
learning
about
more
what you're
about what you're
doing.
doing.
And as
And
the
as the
series
series
progress, maybe
progress,
you can
maybe you
come
could
on
come
back
on back
and share
and
some
share some
information with
information
us.
with
All
us.
right.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Sure will.
All right. Well,
All right.
thank you
Well,
so
thank you so
much. Hey,
much.
you
Hey,
just
you
heard
just
from
heard
Lonnie
from Lonnie
Lesane
Lesane
Sr.
Sr.
And
And
it's the
it's
name
the
of the
name of
book
the book
is
is
Little
Little
Man's
Man's
Big
Big
Day,
Day.
and
And
it's
it's
out there right now. We want to say thank you for everybody that's been here. Again, we've been having some little bit of technical difficulty, but that's okay. We're going to get that straight and figure that out. I have some other guests coming in the next couple of weeks that are going to bring some good information for you. Also, want to invite you to connect with us inside the Write Your Story group or connect with us through the Passion2Profits TV group. Let me know what your interests are. We have a number of, I'm looking for unique businesses, people who have use their unique passions in a different way. Maybe they've, created some kind of special cookie or sauce, or maybe they've, designed some kind of electronic app or what have you. I'm really looking for us to expand our audience, expand what we talk about. And remember that I'm moving from just passions and profits to passion, purpose, right? And profits, so that you can actually find a way to not just have a passion for something, but what's the purpose of that thing? And then, of course, we definitely want you to still make some money, right? Because you should get paid for the work that you do in the earth. Not that you get caught up in it all. Because remember, once you discover your tag, your talent, your ability, your gift, you put it to work in the earth. And when you do that, different things happen for different people. And we want to make sure that, we support new authors like Lonnie, new people coming in. Everybody, is out there. There's so many things competing for your time, but we want to make sure that we also take some time out for ourselves and let people know exactly what we're doing. So I want to say thank you again for reaching out. Thank you for riding with us. Again, I told you the show would be a little short today, but we'll see you on the next page, the next post, the next YouTube video, or the next live. See you next week. Thank you so much for everybody, and you guys have a great, great day. And oh, don't forget, um, hug somebody and tell them that you love them. All right, we'll see you.